Jim Harbaugh was a man in demand after his success at Michigan and the 49ers and everywhere else he's been. And now he's the coach of the LA Chargers and going to make a lot of money. His brother John Harbaugh is on the verge of making another Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens. Why are two men from the same family so successful? It probably starts with their father. Got more of that right here on Locked On Big Ten.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. The Harbaugh brothers, what's the secret? We'll get into it. Got the latest news around the league and, of course, our weekend basketball picks. Be sure to subscribe down below. That helps us out great. We'd appreciate it. And follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Well, chances are that if your team is coached by either Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh, you will be on a winning football team. Jim is coming off an undefeated 15-0 national championship season. And of course, he once lost to his brother's Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl when he coached Colin Kaepernick and the 49ers to runner-up status that year. Remember, we called it the Har Bowl back then. And it looks like John has a great chance to get the Ravens back to the Super Bowl this year. And if the Ravens win the Super Bowl, who would have thought that Jim Harbaugh and, of course, his brother John Harbaugh would win a championship and a Super Bowl possibly in the same season, 1 month apart? It's remarkable. It's totally against the odds. And, speaking of odds, it's hard to win anywhere. It's 1,000,001 chance to make it to a Power 5 or an NFL head coaching position just to get the job. It's another matter once you get there to win a championship. And for two members of the same family to win at a level like this is just incredible. So where does this amazing coaching DNA come from? Well, for starters, it may come from their father, Jack Harbaugh, of course. Jack was an old school, hardcore football coach back in the day. Coached for over 40 years, including a stint as the defensive backs coach for Bo Schembechler at Michigan from 1973 to 1979. In the 1980s, he was the head coach of Western Kentucky, where he led the Hilltoppers to a NCAA 1AA national championship. All the Harbaughs have won national championships or championships of one kind or another. And since then, he actually helped out Jim as a running backs coach at San Diego and Stanford along the way. And at the age of 84 this year, stepped in to join Jim's staff at Michigan when he was shorthanded because of the suspensions. It's remarkable. Now, Jim will tell you stories about his dad and how it was always work, 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 and chores, but they were all completed with enthusiasm unknown to mankind. That was the saying that the Harbaughs always like to say. And be the best at what you do. Nobody has it better than we do. Everything's great. That was the family motto back in the day. And the Harbaughs, they never went on vacations either. When Michigan went to the Rose Bowl under Bo Schembechler back in the day, the Harbaughs went on that trip in the dead of winter. That was the vacation. That was the vacation. So there's another element to Jim Harbaugh's success and a clue to what comes from his brother. The clue as to why Jim is so successful. Last week, John was asked about his brother's plans. Would he leave Michigan? Would he go to the NFL before the decision was made here this week? John said he didn't know at the time what Jim would do, but he said Jim is the best coach in the world, right? That's pretty high praise from a brother. I don't know about you, but most brothers are pretty competitive. They are. And for him to say, yeah, his brother's just the best coach in the world, that's extremely high praise. But why? Why? Well, John said that Jim is the best team builder he's ever seen. from top to bottom, Jim has the ability to get everybody to buy into whatever they're doing. And that's everything you do is for the good of the team, whether it's the staff or the players or the film guy or the custodian or the secretary in the athletic department. Everybody is all in for the good of the team. Nobody wants to let Jim down. They give all that they have every day to whatever their job is. And when you get that many people following you and dedicating themselves to you, that's a sign of true leadership. It really is. And it's true. Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. And you know what? So is John Harbaugh. Let's not forget that. Let's not overlook that, right? Since becoming the Ravens head coach in 2008, John has had the third most wins in the NFL over that period. And he's passed Brian Billick for the most wins by a head coach in franchise history. And he's only had 2 losing seasons in 15 years in the National Football League. He's made the second most playoff appearances by any NFL coach over that same time. Bottom line is, both of the Harbaughs are winners. I mean, both people, both are just great leaders. They're good with people. They know their football inside and out, and they win. Very, very impressive. And they got that from their dad. And now they all have some sort of national championship, where the dad with his 1AA championship, Jim with his national championship at Michigan, and of course, John Harbaugh, once upon a time, won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens. And again, he's on the verge of maybe winning another one. So, a few moments ago, we mentioned how the Harbaughs face each other back in the Super Bowl when Jim was with the 49ers and John was still with the Ravens. That was Super Bowl 47, the Harbaugh, in 2013. And it was a 34-31 ball game. Pretty competitive. Tough for both brothers going at it. I always you hear brothers or family members don't like to go against each other. It's too emotionally involved. Those two said that they did not like coaching against each other. I know the Mannings, Eli and Peyton Manning, didn't want to ever play against each other. They said the family ties, it was just too much to then go out there and be cutthroat and competitive. It was really hard. So that Super Bowl's in the past with those two, but these two brothers are going to face each other again, and it's going to be soon. And we won't have to wait for a Super Bowl. They're in the same conference now. We don't have the dates yet for the 2024 NFL season, but we do know the opponents that every team will play. And John's Baltimore Ravens will play at SoFi in Los Angeles at Jim's Los Angeles Chargers. So they will play. I can bet you anything I have that will be a nationally televised primetime nighttime game, Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football. Heck, it might even be the season opener, except if that's usually reserved for a Super Bowl winner. And if John Harbaugh and the Ravens win the Super Bowl, usually the Super Bowl team gets to be the home team for that Thursday night season opener. A couple of times it hasn't been. There were unusual exceptions. In fact, it happened to the Ravens. When they won the Super Bowl, they then opened the season the next year on the road. They had the opening night, had to do it on the road. There was a conflict with the Baltimore Orioles at the time. And that's why they did it back in the day. So nevertheless, it had something to do with that in the city of Baltimore. But nonetheless, that's what was going on. And I certainly expect a primetime slot for the Harbaughs when they face each other sometime in the 2024 season. So they'll probably dominate the NFL. And Lockdown Big Ten says goodbye now to Jim Harbaugh. We wish him well. We enjoyed everything that was going on when we talked about him in Michigan. We will still talk about Michigan all the time. I'm sure they will be a factor. And Sharon Moore, I'm sure, will be the next head coach probably. So we got a lot to talk about with all these teams in the Big Ten and new teams coming into the Big Ten as well. We did get some parting thoughts from both Michigan's president and AD regarding this. Plus, we have some other news from around the Big Ten. There are other teams. We will get to it all in just a minute right here on Lockdown Big Ten. If you want to go to a game, tickets are available. You can get them. And if you want to go to the big game in a couple of weeks, you know what I'm talking about. Go to Game Time. Game Time can help you get those as well. They've got, in fact, they have a special deal for you. Fast and easy way to buy tickets to all the sports and everything. But right now, users get $100 off when they buy a big game ticket and use the code Vegas100. All right. The big game's in Vegas. Vegas 100 is the code. It's different than what we normally give you, although the other one will work too. They got killer last minute deals at all with all prices. They show you the views from your seats. You know, that's what I always like to see before you buy a ticket. So you can check that out. They have deals on tickets right up to the start of any event. And with zone deals, you can pick a section and Game Time picks the seats for big time savings. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Right now, all Game Time users get $100 off a big game ticket with the code Vegas100. Terms apply. Just download the Game Time app and use the code Vegas100, VEGAS 100 for $100 off a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the big game, use the code Locked On like you normally do for $20 off your first purchase. So download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to help us out, please, and subscribe. You can subscribe, and on YouTube, you can share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten wherever you get this podcast. Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. All right, so as expected, Michigan President Santa Ono and Athletic Director Ward Manuel issued statements on Jim Harbaugh's departure. Manuel was very gracious and thanked Harbaugh for doing everything that he did to make Michigan the best over his 9 years there. He noted how Jim did everything he set out to do at Michigan by building the program to consistently win the Big Ten and compete for national championships. Mission accomplished. Check. Manuel also let everyone know that they did everything they could. He didn't want to be looking like the bad guy here. They did everything they could to keep Harbaugh by offering to make him the highest paid coach in football. But in the end, he wanted to pursue opportunities and return to the NFL. And finally, he said they would work very quickly to hire the next coach and wished Harbaugh well. And again, I think it will be offensive coordinator Sherrone Moore. President Ono reiterated it was his highest priority to keep Harbaugh at Michigan. He said everyone was sad to see him go, but he will be cheering for Harbaugh on his next adventure. All right, so that's it. That closes the book on Jim Harbaugh and Michigan. Now we wait to see. Again, I think Jesse Minter and I think Jay Harbaugh are going to follow him out to Los Angeles. Word is everybody else is going to remain with, if it's Sherrone Moore, on the staff. So not a lot of turnover there. That's good for the Wolverines. And of course, the transfer portal is now open for the next 30 days because a coach left. We'll see how many players decide to leave or how many they get to keep or want to keep. And that'll be big. That'll be big. So we'll keep an eye on that over the next month right here on Locked On Big Ten. In other news, former Indiana coach Cam Cameron. Remember him? He was a while ago. His stint in Bloomington was from 1997 to 2001. He replaced Bill Mallory back in the day. So we're going back a little bit here, but he was on a recent podcast and he flat out said, look, Indiana is not a school that a coach goes to advance one's career. All right. And he says it's not a place you go to win a Big Ten championship. You just try, to beat Purdue and, win a few of those trophies. And he's having said that, though, Cameron says that this is a quarterback-driven sport, and he believes that Indiana's new coach, Curt Cignetti, says he played quarterback at West Virginia, knows him very well, and he just might be the guy who can get Indiana going in the right direction. Wouldn't that be something? With all these schools, 18 schools, and all the regular powerhouses and the Pac-12 teams coming in, if a school like Indiana or some of the other teams that tend to struggle from time to time, if they could be part of the mix, be perfect, be very exciting. So we'll see. We'll see what Cignetti does in his first year. Yesterday, we spent some time talking about the Iowa Hawkeyes and how it's been 90 days since they announced that they would have a new offensive coordinator in 2024, and they don't have one yet. And we talked about former Wisconsin coach Paul Chryst. He had been rumored to have turned it down. We don't have total confirmation on this. It was just rumored that he turned down the opportunity to be Kirk Ferentz's offensive coordinator and decided to return and remain at Texas. So who else is in the mix, Iowa Hawkeye fans? Let's hear from you. This has been really quiet. It's like top secret. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you on the comments on YouTube or on Twitter at X at Talk Big Ten, number 10. So as far as we know, Joe Philbin's name was floated around a lot. I don't know if that's happened. I mean, he coached the Iowa offensive line like 20 years ago. And I guess he got into the rumor mill in the media because, I don't know, somebody asked Kirk Ferentz about it. Kirk was very glowing in his review. So everybody said, oh, maybe he's going to be the new offensive coordinator. Nothing's happened. We don't know. Again, he was 20 years ago. Currently, he's an offensive analyst at Ohio State. Another name that was floated was former Duke offensive coordinator, quarterback coach Kevin Johns. And for the last 2 years under Johns at Duke, Duke averaged 400 yards and 33 points per game. Can you imagine for just a minute here? Just imagine an Iowa football team with 400 yards of offense and 33 points a game. Wow. With that defense and how they normally play, it's unfathomable. I know. We'll see. That's just a name out there. Another name that was out there early on was Nebraska coach Scott Frost. He was rumored to be in the mix early. He was not successful at Nebraska, but very successful at Central Florida, where he went undefeated one season. So it was a couple years ago, but that name has quieted down as well. So I don't know. I've given you the names that are out there. I have no idea. Nobody has any idea. Kirk Ferentz knows, I guess. Maybe you Iowa Hawkeye fans know. Hit us up with the comments. We'll try and figure this thing out. And of course, as soon as it happens, we'll talk to, I'm sure we'll have an opinion on it. I also have a quick piece of Penn State recruiting news brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. It seems Penn State has lost out on a prime 2025 recruit, Ari Watford. He was regarded by many as the #1 defensive end in the country. As a recruit, he canceled his visit to Happy Valley for next week, and he has committed verbally to Clemson. So there's that. Bad news for James Franklin and Penn State. Anyway, that's the latest going on there. Also, if you haven't heard yet, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's called Locked On Sports Today. And it's here for you 24/7. It covers the top sports stories of the day with local experts from Locked On, including me. That's right. Our national shows, Locked On Big Ten, they air like every half hour over there, plus the latest news inserted in and everything. It's a pretty good deal. Go over there, Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. And after you subscribe here, go there and subscribe there. Then you got both of us and you're covered. It is the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right. It's a big Big Ten basketball weekend this weekend. We've got our picks to close out the week because that's what we like to do. What about your team? I'll have it next right here on Locked On Big Ten. We are down to the nitty-gritty for the conference championships and the NFL season, and we're winding it down. It's about to be a wrap, but it's not too late for you to join FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I'm going to tell you right now, when you get to the big game, the final game, the prop bets, hundreds of them. That's what's fun to do during that big game. All right. So check it out. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. It's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet, like same game parlays that are live. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. It helps you out, kind of guide you around a little bit. You can make a parlay on the Parlay Hub. That's the best way to find popular parlays, plus all the standard stuff, point spreads, point totals, the prop bets, all that. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. As we wind down the week, we always like to make some picks. Football season, pigskin picks. Now we move on to basketball. There's a handful of games going on. I'm going to put this on screen. If you're listening on audio only, we'll describe it for you in detail so you don't miss out on anything. And let's see here. I'm going to get rid of my name on the screen because it's blocking our view. There we go. Okay, let's get to it. Started out here on Friday night tonight. Michigan State at 13th ranked Wisconsin. That is a nationally televised game on FS1. Tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern. Tom Izzo close it in on 700. I don't think he's going to get any closer tonight because Wisconsin at home is pretty tough. This is a good basketball. Michigan State's playing better, though. But anyway, I'm going to pick Wisconsin in this one with the Badgers. That's how I see that one go. Now, Saturday, let's look at the Saturday schedule. Nebraska is at Maryland. That is at noon on the Big Ten Network. I've been talking up Nebraska a lot lately, haven't I? I have. At home. And then Maryland is one of those places that's just tough to play. So Nebraska, Maryland, whoever was going to be home for this game would be the team that I'm going to pick. And since this time it's at Maryland, I'm going to pick Maryland. If this was at Nebraska, I wouldn't even hesitate to go with Nebraska. How about that? Should be a good basketball game. Noon on Saturday, Big Ten Network. All right, Indiana is at number 10, Illinois. That is Saturday, mid-afternoon, 3 o'clock Eastern time. That's a nationally televised game on Fox. Illinois been playing pretty well, and they got Terrence Shannon Jr. back last week amid all of his legal problems. So he's back, had 16 points in his first game back. So they're pretty loaded. And again, Indiana is just up and down. I'm going to be very curious to see how Indiana comes out and plays in this game in all facets. Also, we've got Iowa at Michigan. That is Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern. That's on FS1. And Iowa's starting to heat up a little bit. And Michigan's struggling. Man, did they take it on the chin to Purdue? But everybody does. But man, that was tough. So Iowa, I will take Iowa in this game. Again, heating up after a slow start. This Iowa team can score points in bunches. Minnesota is at Penn State Saturday night, 6:30 on the Big Ten Network, 6:30 Eastern time. Minnesota had the close game with Wisconsin. Penn State beat Wisconsin at Penn State. So because both teams had close games with Wisconsin. Because this one's at Penn State plays a little better at home. I'm going to go with the Nittany Lions on this one. And then on Saturday, we close it out with Ohio State at Northwestern. That's Saturday night, 8:30, Big Ten Network, Eastern time. Ohio State, they struggle with their shot sometimes. And when they do, they just not much that. And when they hit them, they can be pretty formidable. Northwestern at home is tough. They are. I mean, they beat number 1 Purdue at home about 3 weeks ago. So I'm going to take Northwestern with this one because it's at Northwestern. And then we go to Sunday. And before you watch all your NFL conference championships late Sunday afternoon and evening, you can catch a little Big Ten basketball. Number 2, Purdue on the road at Rutgers. Now, here's the deal. And Rutgers, good defensive team. I gave you the stats the other day. They're like 300th in the country in 3-point shooting, 2-point shooting, and free throw shooting. The offense is really strong. They try and grind you down. They're a lot like their football team. They like to grind you down with the defense. This is no disrespect to Rutgers. Purdue may double up their score. Purdue's playing so well. Zach Edey does whatever he wants inside. If Rutgers packs it in and Purdue hits their shots on the outside, I mean, Purdue could double up the score. This could be like an 80-40, 45 game, something like that. That's more respect to Purdue than anything else. So that's my pick for that game. Taking the Boilermakers in that one. All right. So there you have it. Those are our picks for the weekend. If you want to comment on them, we'd love to hear from you as well. And there are many ways to get a hold of me, of course. Twitter, X, at Talk Big Ten, number 10, comments on YouTube. And of course, don't forget our website, talkbig10number10.com. You can get Big Ten merch there from any team, not just the league, not just get your team, go to the website, check it out. And all of our podcasts, everyone we've ever done is there. And they're also grouped for your convenience by your team. You want to look for something from Penn State, anything we've done, it's right there, for example. So check that out. Contact me again at Twitter and on the website and on YouTube. And be sure to subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. And you get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube as well. We told you about that. Go check that out and subscribe there as well on Locked On Sports today. All right, that'll do it. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy all the football. Enjoy the Big Ten basketball. We'll be back on Monday morning with all the latest. Tell all your friends about us. Thank you for checking us out. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.